Hey guys, this video is a kind of a restoration. I have the base of a 60s era Starburst type clock, and I have some other bits and pieces from another clock that actually fit it, including a nice Junghans dial, and I'm going to fit a modern quartz movement in it. I don't have the original movement, and so it's kind of a restoration. We do have to recreate one of the spikes that's missing, and one's also damaged. It's a restoration required to replace a retro clock, another Starburst, another Junghans Starburst clock in our Airbnb. Now you may be asking why. Come and I'll show you. Okay, here's our nice original Junghans Starburst clock, which I picked up at an auction, and I did film that auction. It was, I think it was probably 12 months or more ago. I'll link the video underneath. And I did have to repair it, and there's a video on that as well, which I'll put underneath too. It goes really well in our Airbnb with all our other random retro, art deco, antique, all sorts of other stuff. We've got a nice sort of feel for this this house, I reckon. It's got a really nice character, but I can't leave this in here any longer because we've had some guests leave the battery out. So obviously it's too noisy for them. These movements do make a little bit of noise, not quite as much as Coco, who's barking in the background, but they do make a bit of noise. And rather than have people take it off the wall and remove the battery all the time, I'm going to get that other one ready with a modern quartz movement that won't be as loud. Now back to this one. It is a really nice shape, and it would also be quite a valuable clock if I had the original movement to it, but I don't. That's just how I got it. There was no movement with it. As I said, it's had a tumble off the wall, and one of the spikes here has had a chunk out of it. We're probably going to get a focus on that. So I'm going to try and repair it. The repair won't be anything that can't be reversed as far as this modern movement, which is not super modern. It's a made in China movement, but it's probably, I don't know, 10, 15 years old maybe. I found it in someone's shed when we were doing a cleanup, so I will be able to utilize that movement. And if ever I find a proper Junghans movement to go back in this, I can easily put it back in. So I'm not modifying anything that can't be reversed. The dial came with this glass, which turned up in a box of stuff, and it's exactly the right sort for this clock. And it has plastic spikes that push the housing or the bezel onto the face. Now, this one would have had exactly the same, and there's one plastic sort of spike thing that's been broken off in there, so I have to get that out, and this one has all three, so that's a perfect replacement, an original replacement. The dial is the right one for it as well, and with the black on the interior, that's going to work really well, because what I'm thinking, I'm not going to be able to recreate a spike out of teak and get it to match exactly with these other ones. It'll always look slightly different. I doubt I could find some teak timber to do the job anyway. What I thought I might do, given that one of these other ones is damaged as well, I thought I might make another spike out of maybe some pine or something, and then paint all the long spikes black. So we'll still have the teak colour on the other shaped ones, but if I paint all the spikes black, the black will work well with the black in the centre of the dial, and I think it really should make a nice clock out of it. And with this quartz movement, it will be quiet enough to go in the Airbnb, look the part on the wall, and yet not be overly noisy. Now, I did look at buying a reproduction one of these online, but they were fairly expensive, and I'm sure I'd be bitterly disappointed in the quality. I would imagine the spikes are all plastic, and they're probably not as large as these clocks. Anyway, I didn't want to go to that expense when I had this one sitting here, and it's a good way to use it. So our first job is going to be, see where that spike's broken off, we've got a dowel in there, so I'll have to try and drill the dowel out. Then I'm going to take another one of these spikes out, and the one that's got a chunk missing here, you'll notice if we look flat across it, you'll notice it's actually bent too. You get the right angle there? Probably can't, yeah, there you go. It's bent forward, so it's obviously had an impact with the floor. It's fallen off the wall at some stage. It looks like it's a little loose, so hopefully I can get that one out, because I can use that one as a template to make up another one. As far as this one itself goes, I don't think I'll worry about actually repairing it. I might build it up a little bit just with some putty or something so that when I'm painting it, it's not as much of a chunk missing. But because that's actually against the wall, you're never really going to see it anyway. So we'll see if that one comes out. I think the others may as well stay in. I should be able to paint them carefully so that they look okay, because I'm imagining they're going to be a bit hard to get out. We'll see how we go. But I'll need to get one out as a template so that I can make up the missing one. As far as the rest of the clock goes, the glass and the bezel really just need a wash, as does the face. I mean, that smudge there is just my dusty fingerprint from before. And the movement, I think, will fit nicely in the back. And the good thing is that this movement actually does have a hook to hang the thing from, because the clock actually doesn't incorporate a hook. I could always put a little picture hanger on the back, but if we can hang it off the back of the movement, that's actually how the original movements were supported. So the main job is going to be to get this spike out, to fit in, to make a new one to match, and to fit it up properly. Painting them shouldn't be a problem. So we better get to it. Okay, let's see if we can get this spike out. It is loose. I'd rather not break the dowel. I'd rather the dowel come out because then I don't have to drill it. Well, it's moved a bit, but it's hanging on pretty well. All right, I wonder if I can get a little flat blade in there to help lever it. All right, because it's moved out a bit, I'm guessing that the glue's not holding it anymore. It must be just a real tight press fit. I don't want to damage anything too much. I think teak is a fairly soft timber. At least on the back it won't be seen if I leave a couple of little marks. No, I don't want to press too much. Oh, I feel like it's going to break the dowel. I might get something else to try in there. Let's try this watch case back removing tool. I don't know what they made this out of, but it's the strongest material I've ever seen. I've never been able to bend it. And it's pulling it out a bit. Yeah, I'm sure the glue has let go. Whoops. Don't like cracking sounds. Okay, we're coming. We've just got to be patient. Aha, that's better. Beautiful. Now, has the dowel come out of the main body or out of the spike? There we go. It's still in the spike. Geez, it goes in a long way. Okay, well, that'll give us one at least to use as a template. And I'll be able to then glue that back in. Now, we do need to get the broken dowel out of the other one, which I guess I'm going to have to drill. I don't think we're going to be able to drag that out, given how tight this one was. Well, let's give it a quick go. You never know your luck. It's probably just going to crush it. Yeah, got nothing to hold. Oh, that's okay. We can drill it out. So I'll try a smaller drill in the middle, I think. Well, a medium-sized drill. I won't go out the full size, but I think if we drill through it, it doesn't matter if we're a little bit off center, we won't make the hole any larger, and once the hole goes in deep enough, we should be able to just sort of break the sides in. So it doesn't matter with what's left of the dowel, but we don't want to damage the clock body at all. Let's perhaps cut it off flush, and then we can get a good centering drill into it. Okay, a hacksaw blade should be probably the best for this. Okay, that's pretty good. Now we need to set it up somewhere where we can drill nice and straight. We don't want to go off on an angle. Okay, let's drill through here. I've got a bit of tape on the drill bit as a depth gauge, and the drill bit's going to take most of the dowel out. I should be able to keep fairly straight here by lining it up with the center of the clock, and I'll just have to eyeball the other dimension. So let's see how we go. Oh yeah, that's looking pretty good actually. Okay, it just sunk in, so I figured we're at the bottom of the dowel. We should be able to clean that up okay. There's a few little scratches around the edge, I think from the hacksaw blade, but they'll disappear with a bit of a re-oil. So I don't think these spikes were glued in. I think they were just a press fit, so we should be able to get this remaining piece of dowel here. It's just going to fold in on itself. Yeah, that should be easy enough to clean out. Yeah, that's going to work fine. Nobody saw me using a screwdriver as a chisel, did you? And actually a punch for a hammer. Delicate work. Let's see if we can pull it out. Yeah, I didn't think that was quite work. Given that I feel I got the hole in exactly central position, I'm going to run a larger drill bit down, and it fits beautifully in the top, so it'll just clean out the debris. There we go, perfect depth. The next problem, and probably a bit more challenging, is to make another spike. Now, I've hunted around my workshop everywhere for a piece of timber the same thickness. I seem to have a lot just thinner or quite a lot thicker. So I found an old crate here that I saved bits of old crates for the timber because it's really nice old timber, and if I'm repairing a box it's really handy to have this. And the end panels on this one are exactly the right thickness. Probably yeah, I'd think you'd call them exact. They're very close. And it's long enough. So I think this is a pine. It's obviously had black paint on it or some sort of Japanning. But it's nice straight grain. There's no knots in it. It's got some nail holes on the end, so I'll have to come in the middle somewhere. And the first thing I'm going to do is just scribe around this and cut it out with a handsaw. And then I think we'll just probably sand it down to shape. We've got a little bit of a curve on this end, which we'll have to recreate so it's a neat fit. So yeah, that's next. So I'm only going to make the one because I'm actually going to try and repair this. I thought I might actually try and mould a bit of a new end on it, maybe with JB Weld. We'll see how we go because it's going to be painted anyway. All right, let's pick out the best piece of timber here with no bad nail holes or anything. And we'll scribe out the shape and then cut it out with a saw. Yes, that is an electrical test probe. And it marks it beautifully. Okay, let's cut that out with a handsaw. Okay, I've got a fairly fine point saw. This is actually a PVC pipe saw, but it's a good fine tooth, so it shouldn't splinter too much. We are cutting with the grain, so it's going to be, you ideally would probably use a coarser saw, but I want a neat cut, so I'll just follow that along there. And I'm cutting just outside the line so that we're not too small when we sand it back. Terrible place to put a magnet. Now to do the other side. Okay, we're quite a bit bigger, but it will sand down fine. I think the end point is actually around about the right shape. So that's actually good. I might reposition where I scribed the curve this end. We can move it down a bit. I think I'll leave it for now and we'll sand it until we get a nice match. And the height is almost perfect. It's just a fraction higher, which is fine because I need to sand the paint off it and get it nice and smooth. So now to clean this piece up with some sandpaper, I've just sanded the back and it's taken most of the black paint off already, and that side's nice and straight and smooth. And I'm using a piece of glass. In fact, I used to have a nice heavy piece of glass. I'll have to round up another one. This is just my bathroom scales, but at least it's a flat piece of glass. And a bit of, what am I using here? 60 grit. So fairly coarse for a start, just to get them all straight and square. So we get rid of our sawing marks pretty easily because we used a fine tooth saw. So that's going to be good. I'm just going to clean it up. I'll need to bevel the corners just slightly, but I'll take it back until it's the right shape. It's getting pretty close already, actually. This is sanded back very well. I went from the 60 to an 80 because that was brand new and it really took the soft pine back nicely. And then I've gone to, what's this one, a 240, just to give it a bit of a smoother finish and just to round the edges off because they were a little bit sharp. But you can see we're pretty well absolutely identical size now, and the piece of pine is cleaned up beautifully. There's no knots in it at all. Look at a magnificent grain there. So all I need to do, I have just marked around the end, which is just a very slight curve. It obviously has to suit the body of the clock. So I'll cut that back a bit closer, and then I'll sand it on a bit of a curve so that it fits up snug. Then all we have to do really other than that is to drill a hole in the end. Hopefully we get a hole for the dowel in the right place. I'll just finish rounding off the corners here. So there we go. That's what it's come from. That's what it is. I'll just trim the end of this spike off now with a coping saw, just so I can get a little bit of a curve on it, and I'll finish it with some sandpaper. It's going to be nice when I get all my workshop set up properly and I can set up a bandsaw and all decent equipment. Although I do like doing little jobs with hand tools, it just takes a lot more time. Okay, to finish off the curve, I found a paint tin that's the same diameter as the clock, or the body of the clock. So if we sand up and down here, we should have the right profile to match the body of the clock. That looks pretty good to me. Quick test fit now to see if we have a right profile. Yep, that looks awesome. Right, now we have to organise the dowel. Okay, a little bit of a cheat here. I couldn't find any dowels. In fact, the only dowels I had were some tiny ones out of a kitchen when we put a new kitchen in. So they're no good to me. But I found a plastic plug, a wall plug, that was just a whisker too big. So I've just sanded it in the drill. And I think it's going to fit in the hole very snugly. Excellent. Nice and firm. I will probably glue this in anyway, because the other one that I got out earlier that I've just poked in to check is a little loose now, so I will glue that too. So this will work fine. I just need now to work out exactly where to drill the hole in the new spike, and hopefully we'll get a nice snug fit in there as well. And we still have to get this little plastic plug out of here from the old bezel. That should be pretty easy. I'll just run a really fine drill bit down there. It should come out no problems. Then I think we'll fit up the spike, glue it all in, and then I can tape or mask all the parts I want to keep, and I'll prime the spikes. I might have to give them a really quick just sand just to rough them up a bit, and I'll prime them all, including the bare timber one, and I might give that a couple of coats perhaps, and then we can spray them all with black whilst they're in position. I think that'd be the easiest way. I don't want to try and get the other ones out, and to paint them there I'm going to have to mask anyway, so I might as well do all of them at once. So I've just tapped the wall plug into that hole there. It fits really snugly, and we'll just do a quick test fit of the spike just to make sure it's all going to line up okay. I don't think it matters which way we put it on actually, but it's quite a firm push. And how's that look? Our star has found its missing spike. That looks awesome, and they're going to look great painted black. We've got a pretty snug fit there up against the body of the clock. It fits the contour very nicely. Pretty happy with it. I bet you that old packing case or whatever it was never thought that it would be donating a piece of itself to a clock. All right, let's get that little plastic plug out. I've just got a drill bit exactly the right size, so we'll drill the whole plastic plug out. Okay, that should be deep enough. Let's do a test fit of our dirty bezel. Make sure the plugs go in all the way. Yep, that's fine. Oh, now we've got to get off without breaking more pins. It's got it, all good. Now, I almost forgot, we're going to fix this broken part of this spike, so I'll mix up some JB Weld. Now, we shouldn't need too much. Equal parts. Oh, that's probably more than we need, but anyway. Equal parts of black and white. and mix until it's grey. Okay, now I'm going to make a little mould for it, just out of some thin plastic. What we're going to do is just spray a little bit of WD-40 or any sort of spray lube, anything that's a little bit oily on the inside of it, and that'll stop it sticking to the plastic. So we should be able to form the right shape here by folding it around the point. And now we can just fill the cavity in the end. In fact, what I might do before I put that on, I will actually just smooth it in so that it gets right into the cavity and it gets a good bond. And then we can put our little fence around it and fill it up, and hopefully we get the right shape. This stuff sands quite easily, so we should be able to form the end to the shape we want, and we're going to paint it anyway. Might be a bit messy getting it right down the end. I think we're going to have a bit, we might have to cut a bit off with a little coping saw before we start sanding, but as long as we've got it all full, I think that should be fine. We'll leave that till tomorrow. Okay, welcome to tomorrow. Let's see how this turned out. Oh, looks good on the bottom so far. Let's hope this plastic comes off. Oh yeah, look, see how well the oil works? It's brilliant. It looks like it's filled up very nicely. Obviously got to cut the top back, but that's only paper thin, and should sand it to shape beautifully. We can probably just cut the top back with scissors. It's very thin. And it's probably a bit thicker right at the end. There we go. All right, I'll get a little bit of sandpaper ready and we'll clean that up. I think that's going to work very good. There we go. That's worked really well. We've just got to square up the end carefully. That looks pretty good, and we'll just bevel the edges. We don't want any sharp edges on it. Okay, I am very happy with that. It's really nice stuff to work with, this JB Weld. It should hang on to the timber nicely, and once we get some paint on that, you will never know there was ever a piece missing. It's a few days later. We have the spike securely glued in. Everything's looking great. It's nice and solid. It's perfectly symmetrical again. I just have to mask up the bits I don't want to paint. We'll be doing that next, and then we'll get some paint on the long spikes. Up on the deck now, and I'll give it a couple of coats of undercoat. I think this is a white, but it's a sealer. We won't go too heavy. And I did give the existing spikes a gentle scuff with sandpaper. Okay, the sun's out a bit today coming through the skylight, but it should be fine to paint here. We've given it a second coat of primer after a very light sand. So now for some black. We'll just mist it on. So I'll give it a few coats of a light mist. And we should get a pretty even finish. Okay guys, I ended up giving this 3 coats of the black, and it looks like it's got a pretty good finish on it. So we'll spread it out here and do the most satisfying of the painting jobs, and that's the unmasking, to see how it looks. So let's go super fast mode for this. It was certainly very fiddly masking this up. I wanted to be pretty accurate around those spikes, and it was almost equally as fiddly unmasking it.
I had to be careful, of course, not to scratch the nice fresh black paint that I've put on. It was a couple of days later, but the paint does take a long time to harden up. And of course, I didn't want to scratch the original timber finish on the rest of it. So you can see it's just working really well. The black spikes are going to match it beautifully, also considering that the centre part of the dial is black too. And I have seen original Junghans clocks with the black spikes. And that came out very nicely. I'm very happy with that. The paint looks great. You can't really tell which spike I made. In fact, the average person would have to study it very closely to pick which one. And I'm not even sure which one I repaired with JB Weld now. I can't pick it immediately. Possibly that one. But look, that's absolutely come up great. I think the black and the teak works well. We'll get the face cleaned up and the glass washed up. And I've got this movement here I showed you earlier. Hopefully it fits in all right. It should do. The only thing is I don't know how the hands are going to go, whether we've got suitable hands to go over the black face. But I'll pull it out and we'll have a look and see what's going to work. And the movement's now fitted and the face is held on there by the centre nut, so that's all good. It looks great, doesn't it? I've cleaned up the glass. The hand selection I had with that movement were all not really suitable. I mean, most of them are black, and we're going to lose the black totally. I mean, that one's a bit long. It won't fit under the glass anyway, but the shorter ones just aren't going to work, I don't think. I mean, it shows up there, but black on black isn't the best for a clock. A lot of the Junghans clocks did have a red second hand, so that will work well. The only other gold hands I've got are these quite fancy ones, and it doesn't, I don't know if it suits or not. You guys can decide. I'll put these on for now because they do fit, and you know, maybe it does match because there's a little bit of scrolly work on the face, but most of the Junghans clocks I've seen have fairly plain straight hands. Perhaps I could paint some, but I have got a box of them somewhere. Easy to replace anyway, so we'll fit it up with these ones for now. At least we can put it in the house and it will be usable. I've turned a few lights off so you can see that without too much reflection. It's running nicely now. But what do you think of the hands? I'm not really sure I like them. I think probably plain gold would be better. They do need to be gold. The rim around the outside is gold. The numbers are a kind of a gold, although the rim's has some age spots on it. But hey, it's, you know, 60, well, yeah, it's about 60 years old. So there we go. It's complete. I will possibly replace the hands down the track. It's easy to do, but the clock restoration is finished. It's going to look awesome on the wall in the AirBnB house. We've had guests again this weekend in the house. The Airbnb house has been very busy. They've just left, so now it's time for me to swap over the original Junghans Starburst with the original movement that's quite noisy, as I mentioned. And now we're going to have a modified original Junghans Starburst, slightly different design, and now with black spikes. So let's put it up and see what it looks like. There we go. How's that look, guys? I'm pretty happy with that. It's a slightly smaller wingspan than the other clock, but it's easy to read. It looks good on the wall. I'm actually getting used to those hands too. So what do you think? I'm pretty happy to get that project done. It's the remains of a clock I had in the shed that I thought may be handy one day. I never actually considered remaking a spike for it, and there's no way known anyone's going to pick without a really close inspection which spike isn't even original. Thanks heaps for watching, guys. Another project complete, another little bit of work done to our Airbnb property just to enhance it even more. No risk now of my original quite valuable Junghans clock being stolen or damaged. That one's still going to be a bit of value, but I think it's going to be safe there, and at least people don't need to take it down to remove the battery because it makes so much noise. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll catch you in the next video. Bye for now.